right, settle in, folks, because we've got some real deep cuts from Family Guy today. When I saw this episode was Season 22, Episode 8, I had to go back and check my notes. Season 22? Are we sure? Because this feels like it was written by the same guy who came up with the idea for the Peter Griffin versus giant chicken fights, and then, forgot to write a second joke. The showrunner, Seth MacFarlane, bless his heart, he's got a lot on his plate. The Orville, the Ted Show, all that jazz. Maybe he just handed this one off with a shrug and a wink. You ever get that feeling watching an episode where you can just sense the sheer, unadulterated mehness of it all? Like they just decided to throw a bunch of ideas at the wall and see what stuck, and then they just kind of scooped up whatever was closest to the mic. This episode, it's got that vibe. We're going to dive deep into the absolute chaos that is Meg's life, the baffling decision to give the guys a talk show, and a whole lot of questionable life choices. You ready for this? Because I've got a feeling this episode is going to be a roller coaster, and not the fun kind. More like the kind where you're stuck on a rickety old wooden one. You can see the end in sight, but you're pretty sure you're going to fall out before you get there. And trust me, we're going to explore some stuff that'll make you ask, what were they even thinking? Stick around because you won't believe where this train is going. And frankly, neither will I. It's going to be a wild ride, and by the end of it, you'll probably need a nap, or a stiff drink, or both. So, if you're digging these deep dives into the animated abyss, do us a solid and hit that subscribe button. It helps us keep this train wreck of a channel rolling. And hey, maybe if enough of us subscribe, Seth will notice and actually put some effort into the next one. Just kidding, mostly. All right, let's get into it. This episode, titled Family Guy Season 22, Episode 8, feels like one of those episodes that tries to do a lot, but ends up doing, well, not very much at all. On the surface, it's about Meg's seemingly never-ending string of terrible luck, which, shocker, involves a horse, because Family Guy lore dictates that Meg's life is a perpetual dumpster fire, and a horse exploding is just another Tuesday. Then, the guys, in their infinite wisdom, decide they need their own daytime talk show, because apparently, The View and The Kelly Clarkson Show just aren't cutting it for the modern man. The writing here, it's a mixed bag. Some jokes land with a thud, others feel like they're reaching for something profound and coming up with more thuds. The A-plot with Meg and her exploding horse is a classic Family Guy setup. Take something innocent, make it horrifying, and then watch the family react with either indifference or mild amusement. It's a tried-and-true formula, but here it feels a little stale. The B-plot, the talk show idea, that's where things get more interesting, and also, frankly, more bizarre. The idea of Peter, Quagmire, Cleveland, and Joe hosting a show called Bar Table Talk is inherently ridiculous, and that's Family Guy's bread and butter. But the execution, well, let's just say it leans heavily into the guys being guys stereotype, without adding much nuance or actual humor. It's like they took every tired trope about male conversation and just crammed it into a talk show format. This episode sits somewhere in the middle of the season. Not really a groundbreaking moment, but not the absolute worst either. It's more of a, well, that happened kind of episode. Visually, it's Family Guy, so you get the standard animation, nothing revolutionary here. Pacing is a bit uneven, with some scenes dragging and others feeling rushed. My initial verdict? It's an average episode, leaning towards the weaker side of average. It's got a few good laughs, but the overarching stories feel a bit uninspired, and it doesn't really leave a lasting impression. It's the kind of episode you watch, maybe chuckle a bit, and then immediately forget about by the time the next episode rolls around. It's a filler episode, plain and simple, designed to keep the lights on and the animation studios busy, but not necessarily to push the envelope or tell a truly compelling story. It's a comfortable, predictable ride, which is sometimes what you want, but other times you just crave that spark of genius that this episode unfortunately lacks. Let's dive into the moments that defined this experience. First up, we have Meg's absolute nightmare involving Mr. Clompers. We see her trying to save this horse, blowing on it like she's trying to revive a dying ember, only for it to spectacularly, and I mean spectacularly, go down in a heap. The sound design here is crucial. The splat, the buzzing flies. It's a visceral representation of Meg's life. Hope followed by utter, messy destruction. The writers clearly wanted to emphasize just how low things can go for Meg. This isn't just a sad moment. It's a darkly comedic one. It's designed to shock you, make you wince, and then, if you're a Family Guy fan, maybe even laugh at the sheer audacity of it. But what is it really trying to say? It's a metaphor, right? Meg's dreams and hopes are always just a little too fragile, and life just crushes them. My take? It's over the top, as expected, but it could have been more impactful. Maybe if we'd seen a little more of Meg's genuine affection for Mr. Clompers before the inevitable demise, the payoff would have been greater. As it is, it's just another beat in the symphony of Meg's suffering. If I were rewriting it, I'd give Meg a brief flashback to a happier time with the horse, maybe a scene where she's grooming him, talking about her dreams, only for the horse to be taken away, or something equally tragic. That would amplify the contrast and make the splat all the more devastating. Honestly, watching Meg try to save that horse and then immediately go for dumpster diving for expired subs, that's peak Meg. It's the kind of self-destructive resilience that makes you both pity her and question her life choices. Then we get to the bomb scare. Peter gets sent home from work because of it, and Lois, bless her cynical heart, immediately suspects him. This is a classic Family Guy gag. Peter is either the cause of a problem or completely oblivious to his own role in it. The humor here comes from Lois's weary exasperation and Peter's childish denial. "God, you sound just like them," he says, deflecting as only Peter can. The writers are playing on the idea that the guys in this family are often the source of their own misfortune, and the women are left to deal with the fallout. It's a commentary on domestic dynamics, albeit a very, very skewed one. It's funny because it's relatable in a messed up way. Most of us have that one person in our lives who somehow always manages to be at the center of any chaos. If I were tweaking this, maybe Peter did call in the bomb scare, but for a ridiculously petty reason, like he wanted free lunch or he didn't want to finish a report. That would give his denial even more comedic weight. The look on Lois's face when she realizes Peter might be behind it all, priceless. It's that look that says, "Of course it's you. It's always you." Now, the whole daytime TV segment is a goldmine of commentary. We see Lois is glued to the view, and the gag about Meghan McCain being replaced by a dozen feral cats in a quinceañera dress is pretty sharp. It pokes fun at the ever-changing landscape of daytime talk shows and the often bizarre choices networks make. It's a quick, witty jab at the absurdity of celebrity culture and media. The fact that they have to hear them out because the cats have an important dead dad is peak Family Guy surrealism, playing on the idea of inherited privilege and celebrity mourning. It's a fleeting joke, but it lands. What's it saying? Probably that The View is a chaotic mess, and maybe the writers are tired of watching it. If I were writing this, I'd have one of the cats actually deliver a cogent political opinion, just to really drive home the absurdity. The idea that the Kelly Clarkson show is only funny if you're the type of person who claps when a plane lands is another good dig. It's a subtle jab at a certain demographic, implying a lack of critical thinking or an eagerness to please. It's a riskier joke, but it works if you're in on the meta-commentary. Then comes Peter's idea for a male-hosted talk show, Bar Table Talk. The premise is that men's conversations are inherently more interesting than women's. This is where the episode really leans into its controversial territory. They bring up the Chippendale dilemma, which, while a real thing people debate, feels like a weak justification for a whole talk show. The joke about Regis Philbin still being yapping is a nice touch, a nod to daytime TV longevity, and perhaps a gentle ribbing of older personalities. The episode is clearly satirizing the idea that men's conversations are somehow more profound or worthy of mainstream attention, while simultaneously showcasing how incredibly mundane and repetitive they can actually be. It's a clever, if slightly uncomfortable, bit of social commentary. If I were in charge, I'd have them try to book a guest that's completely inappropriate for their format, like a renowned philosopher, and then they just end up talking about football. That would highlight the disconnect even more. The sheer delusion of Peter and the guys thinking they're qualified to host a talk show is the core of the humor. It's the confidence that comes from ignorance. Meg's rejection from the University of Rhode Island is another gut punch. The big envelope, the initial hope, and then the crushing realization. We ran out of small envelopes. You didn't get in. This is a masterclass in comedic timing and pathetic irony. It's designed to be painful, but also absurdly funny because it's so on the nose for Meg's character. It's the universe actively screwing with her. It perfectly encapsulates the feeling of dashed hopes and the unfairness of life, amplified to a ridiculous degree. What's it saying? That even when Meg thinks she has a shot at something good, the universe conspires against her. My alternative? Instead of just running out of envelopes, maybe the university sent her a rejection letter that was also a personal insult. Something like, "We regret to inform you that your application has been rejected due to an overwhelming lack of talent and a questionable life trajectory. P.S. We saw your yearbook photo." That would be even more brutal, and therefore funnier in a Family Guy way. The sheer disappointment on Meg's face is the punchline. It's a moment where you almost feel bad for laughing, but you can't help yourself because it's so tragically fitting. The setup for bar table talk with Tom Tucker being drunk at the bar and Joe doing him a favor is classic Family Guy Deus Ex Machina. Joe mustache sat for Tom Tucker, and that's the favor? It's deliberately absurd. The image of Joe meticulously taking care of Tom Tucker's mustache over the holidays is hilarious because it's so niche and weird. This is the kind of detail that makes Family Guy work, taking a mundane task and elevating it to a heroic act of friendship, all for the sake of a cheap laugh and a plot contrivance. It's saying that the universe of Quahog works in mysterious and often ridiculous ways. If I were writing this, the favor would be even more bizarre. Maybe Joe had to teach Tom Tucker how to properly use a bidet, or perhaps he had to retrieve a runaway toupee, something that highlights the weird, intimate favors people do for each other in the city. The sheer excitement on the guys' faces when they realize they're getting their own show is palpable. It's the pure, unadulterated joy of a ridiculous dream coming true. And the mustache chirps? That's just chef's kiss. Now, Meg's cookies. This is where things get surprisingly heartwarming, or at least as heartwarming as Family Guy gets. The guys try her cookies and they're blown away. Best cookies I've ever had, they declare. The reveal that her tears made them so delicious is a classic Family Guy twist. It takes Meg's misery and turns it into something valuable, something delicious. It's a darkly ironic commentary on how pain can sometimes lead to unexpected creations. What's the subtext? That Meg's emotional turmoil, her sadness, is literally the secret ingredient to her success. It's a twisted form of alchemy. It's also a commentary on how people often don't appreciate something until it's commodified. These guys love the cookies when they're selling them, but would they have noticed if Meg just made them for herself? My rewrite? Maybe one of the guys notices the saltiness and comments on how it reminds him of his ex-wife, and then they still love the cookies. It would add another layer to the tears theory. The moment Meg starts to feel genuinely proud of herself, that's a rare glimpse of character development. It's fragile, but it's there. The long hallway Shark Tank segment is a fun, albeit predictable parody. The sharks' reactions, especially the Gordon Ramsay-esque yelling from one of them, are spot on. It plays into the show's tendency to parody popular culture. The instruction from Chef Ramsay to "step outside, where I'll speak to you in an entirely different tone" is a direct reference to his TV persona. It's a funny moment because it takes a well-known character and places him in an unexpected context. The fact that Meg is overwhelmed and starts crying and Chef Ramsay turns into a therapist is a clever subversion of expectations. It's saying that even the harshest critics can sometimes offer genuine advice. My take? The Chef Ramsay character should have been even more unhinged. Maybe he starts throwing plates or yelling about the quality of the flour in Greek. That would have made the contrast with his later gentleness even starker. The hope that Meg has for her business, finally feeling like she's good at something, is the emotional core of this part of the story. And then, of course, the actual Bar Table Talk episode airs. The theme song, Guys Just Want to Have Fun, where they just yell guys over girls just want to have fun, is something. It's lazy, but in a way that's kind of brilliant. It's the musical equivalent of a caveman grunting. And the segment, the clenched buttocks urinal fart of the day, sent in by Gene Kozlowski, that's pure, unadulterated Family Guy. It's gross-out humor at its finest, meant to shock and disgust, but also to make you laugh at the sheer juvenile nature of it. The description of the fart having the power of a state fair sausage is just perfect. It's the kind of detail that makes you question your own sanity for finding it funny. If I were writing this, the fart would have an actual sound effect that was scientifically inaccurate but hilariously dramatic. Maybe a thunderclap followed by a Wilhelm scream. The idea that this is what men talk about and this is what they think should be on TV is the show's commentary on masculine bravado and lowbrow humor. It's a deliberate choice to make the show as unappealing as possible to anyone with refined taste. Meg's reaction to seeing Peter on TV, "Oh, I can't believe that's my husband," followed by the wedding night flashback, is a classic Family Guy non sequitur that plays on the audience's expectations and then flips them on their head. Lois is horrified by Peter's show, and Peter's response, "Sorry, I already masturbated. There was a seashell on top of the toilet that looked like a boob," is so Peter. It's crude, it's impulsive, and it's perfectly in character. It's a moment that reminds you that no matter how much the family tries to evolve or how grand the plot lines get, Peter will always be Peter. My rewrite? The seashell shouldn't have just looked like a boob. It should have whispered sweet nothings to him. That would have elevated the delusion. The whole scene is a reminder of the dysfunctional yet somehow enduring nature of the Griffin family. They're a mess, but they're their mess. Carter's appearance with the business opportunity is a nice callback and a way to tie things together. He offers them $50,000 for 500 bags of cookies, which is a pretty sweet deal. His attempt to lowball them with 10,000 pennies is classic Carter, always trying to get one over on his son-in-law. The sheer shock and excitement of the family at the $50,000 offer highlights how much this means to them, and especially to Meg. It's a moment of genuine triumph for Meg, where her hard work and her unique ingredient finally pay off. It's a validation of her efforts, and a glimpse into a future where she might not be the perpetual punching bag. If I were Carter, he'd have offered them the $50,000, but then immediately asked for 10% of her tier harvesting operation. That's more on brand. The scene is a testament to the power of a good product, even if the secret ingredient is a little unconventional. The climax of Meg's story involves her inability to cry, which jeopardizes the $50,000 deal. The irony is delicious. Her newfound happiness is now the source of her downfall. She's achieved emotional stability, and now she can't produce the tears needed to make her cookies, which means no business. It's a cruel twist of fate, and very Family Guy. The arrival of Jamie Lee Curtis peddling Sliquid feminine wash for feminine dryness is a surreal and unexpected cameo.
It's a gag that comes out of nowhere, a classic Family Guy non sequitur that aims to confuse and amuse. The implication that Meg's emotional state might be somehow linked to feminine dryness is absurd. My idea? Jamie Lee Curtis isn't selling feminine wash. She's a secret agent trying to get Meg to cry so the government can analyze her tear composition for a new biological weapon. That would be a twist. Chris's involvement, selling intimacy products with Jamie Lee Curtis, is also bizarre, and their shared laughter about the product is a strange moment of levity amidst Meg's crisis. The episode is highlighting the absurdity of life's cruel jokes, where achieving happiness can sometimes mean losing everything. The ending, where Meg realizes her dream is to be Otis Spunkmeyer, is hilarious in its specific niche ambition. Chris's comment about the company name is pure observational humor, highlighting the suggestive nature of brand names. The episode concludes with Meg's tear-induced cookie business potentially failing, all because she's finally happy. It's a bleak but funny ending that reinforces the show's cynical outlook. The final shot, with the family needing to make cookies and demanding Meg's tears, underscores the transactional nature of their support and the precariousness of Meg's newfound joy. It's a cycle of misery that seems to be perpetual for Meg, even when she's doing well. Now, let's talk about the characters. Meg, bless her heart, is the perpetual victim here, but this episode gives her a moment of agency and success, only to snatch it away. It's a classic Meg arc. She gets a taste of happiness and business acumen thanks to her tear-infused cookies, and then it's all threatened because she's no longer sad. It's a cruel irony that the very thing that made her valuable to others, her suffering, is now hindering her progress. She's used well in this episode, serving as the catalyst for both the cookie plot and the general misery that fuels much of Family Guy's humor. Her brief moment of feeling proud and hopeful is a rare, almost touching development, only for it to be immediately undercut by the show's relentless cynicism. It makes you wonder where her story is going, but with Family Guy, the answer is usually back to square one. Peter, as usual, is the oblivious id of the family. His bomb scare is a classic Peter move, causing chaos through sheer incompetence or a selfish whim. His enthusiasm for bar table talk is peak Peter, a grandiose idea with absolutely zero self-awareness about its inherent flaws. He's used effectively as the engine of the male talk show plot, embodying the show's satirical take on traditional masculinity and male discourse. His moments on the show itself, especially the fart segment, are designed to be shocking and juvenile, which is exactly what you expect from him. Does it change how I see him? No, he's Peter. He's always going to be Peter. His role in this episode simply reinforces the status quo. Lois is the long-suffering wife and mother, the voice of reason desperately trying to navigate the chaos created by Peter and the boys. Her immediate suspicion of Peter regarding the bomb scare is spot on, and a testament to their shared history of his antics. She's used as the audience surrogate in many ways, reacting to the absurdity with weary exasperation. Her brief appearance watching The View and commenting on it is a way to integrate her into the episode's broader commentary on daytime television. She's not given a huge arc, but her reactions ground the more outlandish elements of the story. Her role here is to be the exasperated observer of masculine folly. Quagmire, Cleveland, and Joe are largely interchangeable in the bar table talk plot. They're there to represent different facets of male camaraderie and discussion, albeit the most stereotypical and often offensive ones. Quagmire's inherent lecherousness is hinted at, while Cleveland's earnestness and Cleveland's laid-back nature are present, but they all coalesce into a singular, often dim-witted male perspective. Their excitement about the talk show is the driving force behind that storyline. They're used as props to facilitate Peter's delusions and to provide fodder for the show's commentary on male bonding and conversation. Their best moments are probably the sheer, unadulterated joy they feel when their talk show is picked up, a brief moment of validation for their otherwise mundane lives. And then there's Carter. He shows up to provide a business opportunity and a hefty sum of money, which is classic Carter. He's the wealthy, often greedy patriarch who occasionally swoops in to offer either a lifeline or another opportunity for manipulation. His offer to Meg is a pragmatic business decision, masked by his usual condescending demeanor. His attempt to shortchange them with pennies is a perfect encapsulation of his character. He's used here to provide a significant plot point that drives Meg's arc forward and tests her newfound happiness. He's the external force that makes the consequences of Meg's emotional state tangible.
Okay, let's dig into some of the hidden stuff. The intro song, the whole violence in movies, sex on TV bit, that's a direct callback to the original Family Guy theme song. They've done variations on it before, but this one feels particularly pointed, almost like they're acknowledging how far they've strayed from any semblance of good old-fashioned values. It's a meta-commentary on the show itself, a wink to the audience that they're aware of the show's often outrageous content. It's something you might just hum along to, but it's a deliberate choice to invoke the show's history and its reputation. Then there's the specific detail about Meg blowing on Mr. Clompers, as if trying to revive a dying ember. It's a visual metaphor that's easily missed if you're not paying close attention. It's not just her trying to save the horse, it's her desperately trying to breathe life into any hope she has, and failing. It's a subtle yet effective visual storytelling device that adds another layer of pathos to Meg's character, even in the midst of a ridiculous scenario. It's about her inherent hopefulness, clashing with the harsh reality of her existence. The cameo by Jamie Lee Curtis, and the whole feminine dryness gag. This is a classic Family Guy move. They pull in a recognizable celebrity for a completely absurd, often sexualized cameo that has almost nothing to do with the main plot, but serves as a bizarre non sequitur. The humor comes from the shock value and the unexpectedness of it. It's a reference that most viewers will likely remember because it's so random, but its actual thematic significance is minimal. It's just there to be weird and memorable. The specific mention of the University of Rhode Island. Why that particular university? It's likely just a random choice, but sometimes Family Guy will pick a real place for a gag, and it adds a layer of pseudo-realism. It makes the rejection feel a little more grounded, even though the reason for rejection is absurd. It's like they're saying, even a real place couldn't handle your level of you. It's a detail that adds a touch of specificity to an otherwise fantastical story. And finally, the fake talk show, Bar Table Talk. The name itself is a hidden gem, isn't it? It's so perfectly descriptive of the kind of shallow, often nonsensical conversations that men have. And the segments like the clenched buttocks urinal fart of the day, that's not just a gross-out joke. It's a commentary on what the show's creators might perceive as the lowest common denominator of male entertainment. They're essentially holding a mirror up to a certain type of humor and asking, is this really what we want? It's a self-deprecating joke about their own show's reliance on similar humor. Let's play a little game of what if, because honestly, this episode left me with a few ideas. First, the Meg's cookies plot. The original idea is that her tears make them delicious. What if, instead, her cookies became a hit because she accidentally used a super rare, expensive spice in them? Like, she was crying so hard into the batter, she knocked over a dusty jar of something obscure from her mom's pantry, and that was the secret ingredient. This would shift the focus from her misery being the product to a happy accident that leads to success. It could have made her a legitimate baker, rather than someone whose sadness is her only marketable skill. It would also allow for a funny reveal where Lois is horrified she's been using that expensive spice. Second, the bar table talk concept. What if instead of just being awful, the guy's talk show actually accidentally becomes a hit because of its sheer incompetence? Like, the network executives think it's some kind of avant-garde performance art. They're not actually funny, but the critics rave about their authenticity and their raw, unfiltered commentary.
This would turn the episode into a satire of the media's tendency to overanalyze and praise anything that seems edgy, even if it's just plain bad. It would also be a funnier way to show the guy succeeding by complete accident. And third, let's talk about the Jamie Lee Curtis cameo. What if instead of selling feminine products, she was there as a talent scout looking for someone to play the lead in a gritty, tearjerker drama about a horse named Mr. Clompers? Meg's inability to cry then becomes her ruin in a more dramatic but still darkly comedic way. She finally found a chance to act, to be someone else, to escape Meg Griffin, but her newfound happiness prevents her from tapping into the raw emotion needed for the role. It's a more direct tie-in to the beginning of the episode and provides a more poignant yet still ridiculous ending to her arc. So, the verdict. I'm giving this episode a solid 5.8 out of 10. Why not a clean 6? Because while it had its moments, particularly the commentary on daytime TV and Meg's brief flicker of success, it ultimately felt like it was treading water. The core concepts weren't fully realized, and the humor, while sometimes sharp, often felt recycled.
The decimal point comes from the sheer audacity of some of the gags, like the fart segment and the Jamie Lee Curtis cameo, which were memorable enough to elevate it slightly above a truly forgettable episode. This episode is for the die-hard Family Guy fans, the ones who will watch anything the show puts out and find something to chuckle at. Viewers who are looking for sharp satire or genuine character development will likely be disappointed. What would have pushed the score higher? A tighter integration of the Meg plot and the talk show plot. Or perhaps a more surprising and impactful twist for Meg's story that didn't rely solely on her misery. Ultimately, this episode felt like a placeholder, a testament to the show's ability to churn out content without necessarily delivering consistent quality. And that, my friends, is the Family Guy way. We started by talking about how the show sometimes feels like it's just going through the motions, and we're ending with an episode that, for better or worse, perfectly embodies that sentiment. It's the circle of Family Guy life, I guess. Or death. Probably death, if we're being honest about Mr. Clompers.